Hey everyone, this is Molly Graves Pryor back at you with another race analysis video from what's really turned out to be a pretty unpredictable but thoroughly fun racing season. That intro that you just watched was actually from the final lap going into the sprint. Maybe it's like a tenth of a mile to go at best, really. And talk about losing years off your life. First off, just wanted to give big kudos and shout out to David, the Hot Tubes Jr. He was able to basically, as you saw, to stay upright at over 50 miles an hour, despite the fact that he had actually been cut off. His line had been taken out from under him, and the fact that he was able to stay upright, it saved a lot of skin for a ton of cyclists, including myself. Because of his handling, he really like saved a lot of people behind him. So we'll get back to that finish in short order, but I wanted to give you just a preview of how insane this day was. So this race is the Ken Harrod Memorial in Windsor, Massachusetts, and it actually won't be the last time that I'm in that neck of the woods, just as a heads up. The next race I did in the area is the Tour of the Hill Towns, which is actually just from this past Saturday, which will be coming up. It's a race analysis video I'll be doing, shortly after this one. But this one, oh man, this was a day of holding on for dear life, featuring multiple nuclear attacks. Several times where I was sorely questioning my life choices, and as you saw, several near catastrophic misses toward the end on just what ended up being a completely unpredictable finish. And so, with that, we're actually just going to hop right into the footage and break down everything that worked and everything that went absolutely sideways bonkers on this day. So thank you for coming. So I just skipped ahead, maybe about like 3/4 of a lap or so. And the reason for that is because this race really was a case of 2 laps. And the 4-mile climb that you see in the elevation profile at the bottom of the video. The second sweet merciful lap that we're in the middle of right now, and the 5th and final lap. And so, one of the things that I've learned in doing these type of climbing races where you have a long selective climb, as I mentioned, that climb is basically Oak Hill Road, I should say. It's a 4-mile climb, as I mentioned, and on climbs like this, it's not about punching it over. It's really, about positioning, sustained power, riding a pace that you can manage until it's over. That's basically the gist of it. So, it sounds simple, right? Well, on a day like today, I basically, unfortunately, put myself behind the 8 ball almost immediately. So one of the things that you'll notice here is, if you've been looking at the power meter on the bottom left, you'll see I've basically been, putting in a lot of efforts, in the 500, 600 range. Now, there's an attack that's going on the front, and I'm trying to, close that down. And the thing is, at this point in the race, because I know how close we are to Oak Hill, I'm actually terrified. I am like, I'm truly terrified because I see how many wheels are in front of me, and there just aren't that many. As you can see, there's not that much roadway to work with. This is a double line race where you cross that double line and you're disqualified. And it's obvious for a variety of reasons. One of them being, or the biggest one being, safety. You don't want to cross the double yellow and then you're met with an oncoming car. So there's really not that much room in the roadway, and this was one of the things that when you're in the middle of it as well and going at the speeds that we're going, you acutely feel your position in the race. And this was, as you can see, a very, very crowded one. So the reason why I said earlier that I was terrified at this point and just looking for an opportunity to move up, but really there wasn't one, is because if you're doing a climbing race and you get on the main climb that you're going to be doing, especially if it's a race where you're taking that climb multiple times, that's an opportunity for the people that are on the front to actually be able to put a massive gap on you, and you're just not going to be able to make it up. And the reason for that is because if everyone is having to fight gravity, that means that in order for you to close that gap, if they're doing 600, 700 watt efforts, as just to say an example, in order to close that, you're going to have to go above and beyond that, which means that, especially for a race where you have a deeply sustained climb, you're really not going to be able to recover from that. So here, as we're coming into this turn, you can see just right out of the gun, I just dump in an immediate attack as hard as I possibly can at this point, or I should say not an attack, it's really more of a response, but I'm well over 700 watts. And the reason for that is because I see the long line of cyclists that are up in front of me. And like I said, I'm afraid that if they put on a gap, if they put on an attack, there's no way in the world that I'm going to be able to close that down and get with any attack group. So I actually committed the first sin here. So you see I did get up to the front group, but you saw that the attack that I had to put on, of over 700 watts to do that, it raised my heart rate from the low to mid 140s to the 160s. And then, wouldn't you know it, I get up to the front group, and then boom, someone else puts in another attack, and that's the second time now that I'm over 700 watts. And at this point, I'm trying to keep up with that front group, but while they've been sitting up there with relatively stable heart rate, I've got myself pretty pegged at the moment. Like just to give you a heads up, my max heart rate is like 185 BPM, and I'm at 172. So I'm definitely in pain cave territory at this moment, and I'm riding. You can see the power meter is like 400, 500 watts, resting at 300. And I'm looking at this and I was like, I got a moment's notice just to rest and relax just a little bit. And then boom, I'm right back over 500 watts, now over 600 watts. And then for the third time in less than a couple of minutes, I'm over 700 watts. And so, because I'm looking at this attack and I'm like, this may be the selection. I have got to be in this. And then for a fourth time, I'm back over 700 watts. And my heart rate is not coming down. Given, where we are on the climb, I know that we have a massive amount of work to do to get up and over this climb. And I'm seeing sideways at this point, and I'm literally thinking to myself, oh my God, what have I done to myself? I was just like, oh no, this is not going to end well. And so, that group that's up ahead, they actually, I think maybe 3 people in the 1-2 field were able to get away, and then we were able to, basically, catch everyone back as far as I can remember correctly. But this was the selective lap in the course. And you can see right here, I'm over 400 watts right now. I'm averaging over 400 watts, 500 watts, and I'm still going backward. And again, because I used up so many bullets just getting myself back into a good position, because I was in such a terrible position starting the climb. I think I might have been like 20, 25, wheels back. It took all of those plus 700 to 800 watt efforts, basically like sprint efforts in the span of a couple of minutes to get myself basically into, that top 10, that top 5, top 10. And then I was just destroyed because I never got a chance to recover. So I'm recovering and the field is continuing to go. You see 450, 500 watts. I'm just like having to continue to hold this power, and at this point, I'm like dying. I'm like, what have I done to myself? I'm gonna get dropped. And you see how many cyclists actually ended up. This is the very back of the field. Just to give you a heads up, this field was, I think, like 55 deep. And you know how many, and you can see just up the road there's a split separation between. There's the 3 or 4 break who put on the attack at the very beginning. Then there was that massive chase break, which I got spit out of, and then this was the second chase break, which was basically the rest of the field, which I'm holding on for dear life and doing everything that I can to try and stay attached. And I knew it, but I didn't want to look back. It's like you look back and you turn into a pillar of salt. But I knew it, given how many cyclists were in front of me. I was just like, I'm at the back of the field, and if I drop any additional wheels, I'm done. Like, I'm literally just going to get dropped out of this. And that was a real fear as I'm doing this. So I'm literally just holding on with everything I've got. And again, my average wattage during this entire climb was over 400 watts. And I'm still going backwards, and there's another pop over 500, and we still are not at the top of this climb. So this was literally like, you hear in Star Wars, I think Yoda said it, where he was just like, once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. Like, that was a case where those 4, 700 to 900 watt pops to get myself into position at the start of the Oak Hill climb, because I was so badly out of position. Those 4 pops, they just dominated the rest of the day. So we're finally, you see it's a 7% at this point. We're finally, starting to crest the top of this, and I think at some point there's going to be like a little KOM sign, and I looked at that and I was like, oh sweet mercy. It's like, we're going to hit the downhill, please, 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 let me just hang on. But as we're cresting this, the only thing that I'm thinking about at this point, I'm not thinking about trying to get a position in the race. I'm not thinking about top 10 or anything. There goes that KOM sign. The only thing that I'm thinking about at this point is, let me just finish. Can I please just stay attached? I mean, if I come in 50th, if I'm like near dead last, but I'm able to finish this, then that may just be all that I can hope for on this day. So we're at the top as you can see, we're at the very top of the climb, and there's a couple of stingers that are left, basically before the entire tough portion of this race is over. So here I'm seeing everyone is starting to slow down, and so what I did here is I just wanted to try and move up just a little bit. Just to put a few more wheels behind me, so that if another attack went off, that I would at least have an extra wheel to hang on to. And you can see I'm back over 600 watts at this moment, and that wheel that I had just gotten in front of and was using for a little bit of a safety. He was right there, and so I was able to kind of just latch onto him, because I had used that time where people were coasting to just try and put some extra wheels in front of me so I could have some fallback. But at this point, even though my heart rate is down, my legs are on fire, absolutely on fire. And the only thing that I can hope for at this point is that the people that are driving this, back of the race chase group, that they are able to that they're basically able to keep contact and then ultimately close down all of the chase groups that may be up ahead. And again, here I am over 600 watts. This is killing me, but I also know that if I don't go deep into the well again and hold that wheel, then I might as well just pull over and end my race. So I'm just like, I've already suffered, so much on this race. I've just got to stay attached and do what I can. So, even though my legs were absolutely destroyed and shredded at this point, being able to use that relatively flat section of the course at the top of the Oak Hill climb, that basically allowed me to bring my heart rate down and have something in the tank. And there we go. There's my little trick again, where I got in front of another cyclist and I was able to use him as kind of my escape when I needed to back off a little bit. And you can see that the difference is huge when you look in the rear cam section of the upper left. The gap, if I hadn't basically been actively trying to plan for that, that would have been a massive gap, and it may have been insurmountable. Because at this point, I'm just like, I don't know what's going to happen. So we're actually about to hit the last stinger on this upper part of the course. And because now my heart rate is back in the 150s, now I can actually get up into the 800s, put in another sprint effort to get up and over this little stinger. And lo and behold, there, right there, is the entire chase group. So the three who had actually broken away, I think one of the guys, his name is Eric Levinson. He's a Cat 1, I think. And he had broken away with like two others, and the rest of the field, basically just wasn't able to stay attached. But he's the one that initiated all of those massive attacks on that climb. So we were somehow or other, I'm not even saying we, because I was just holding on for dear life, but the people that were in front of my chase group were able to close down the main peloton, and we were all able to get back on. So at this point, I'm feeling like I'm dead man walking. So I just used every last bit of momentum, and I moved myself right up to the front of this field. And the reason for that is because I was just like, if that happens again, I'm dead meat. So I just looked at it and I was just like, I need to be at the front. I need to make sure that I do not replicate the mistakes that led to that destruction. And I'll say, if I had been in the front of the field or near the front of the field on the second lap, at the start of this lap, or I should say at the start of the climb in the second lap, it would have been completely different. Because even if those attacks had gone off, I had to use like 2 or 3 of those sprint efforts in rapid succession just to get into position. And that would have been something that I would have actually had in my quiver, and I would have actually been able to, maybe get into that break when it finally went off. You never know. You never know how these things can go. But the positioning, like I was talking about, it's like positioning, sustained power, and riding at a pace that you can manage and maintain. That's critical on, that was a 4-mile climb. That's critical on courses like this. So, here we are. We just came through the finish line, and now we're going into lap 3. We're actually going to skip ahead to the 5th lap, because basically lap 3 and lap 4, it just felt like the field was just like, okay, never again. we're all destroyed. We can't do that again. So yeah, we're gonna ride hard, but we're not gonna do the nuclear attacking that just happened in lap 2. So we're just gonna skip ahead to lap 5 right now, and then we'll talk about the finish of the race. So here we are, right in the same position in the 5th lap as we had picked up in the 2nd lap. And you're probably looking at this and saying to yourself, okay, given everything that Malik has said about, having good position and, trying to be up front and so on and so forth, why in the world is he right back in the same spot behind so many wheels? And well, I can tell you, and the reason for it is because at this point in time, after everything that had happened in the second lap, I was running on fumes for the remainder of the race. It was literally just hardcore energy conservation mode. This was a case where I knew that I did not have much left in my legs, and if I had any hope of trying to salvage the day, I had to be as conservative as I possibly could be. No trying to instigate, no riding in the front, which does require, a higher energy expenditure. Trying to stay sheltered as much as I possibly can, and then just really, depend on others to close down any gaps that might form, so that I don't have to, use poppy efforts to get up and over any climbs or close down any gaps, but that I can ride steady. And that's one of the big things when you talk about, fuel economy on a bike. It's really about riding as steady as you possibly can, trying to avoid, high spikes, and trying to basically keep your efforts as steady and level as possible. That's really the key to conserving energy as much as possible, because when you go deep into that red, you have to basically consume so much more energy than you would if you were just riding at a steady state effort. So in this particular case, I was literally just like, all right, all I can do at this point is just hope for the best, move up where I can using as little energy as I possibly can. As you can see here, I've already moved up several bikes, but I also wasn't putting out any power. In that time, I'm just following wheels and just surfing and trying to be as economical as I possibly can be. And lo and behold, now, I'm only maybe 8 wheels back from the front, and it didn't require me to, spike. So we're just about coming back to the infamous Oak Hill again. I'm looking around and I'm basically, saying, okay, we're going to hit this climb again. And this is the final climb of the day. What do I need to do to get up and over? And hope to God, that I can finish this race with, something resembling a good outing. So we're coming around, and you can see here, people are starting to come around, but I'm still not putting out, any like huge efforts or anything. I'm basically still in recovery mode. And yeah, I've slipped back from 10th to maybe 15th or so, but I saw the inside line open up. I knew that would be the case. And then coming into, the bottom here, the start of Oak Hill, I'm over 700 watts. But the biggest difference is, and you'll see this coming through here, whereas in lap number 2, I had to hit, over 700 watts repeatedly by this point and just drag out like a long, 450 to 600 watt effort just to maintain. I hit that spike to, speed up right out of the corner, and then I'm right back down into the 200s. And that is a place of A, having better positioning, but also B, at this point in the race, everyone else is also kind of shredded too. So I'm actually thinking to myself, okay, I'm exhausted. Everyone else around me has to be exhausted too. That's a good thing. So we just hit that first little riser, and if you recall in lap 2, I was over 700 watts, 600, 700, 800 watts on that spot. And at here, I'm basically in like the 300s to 500s. I had one momentary blip into the 600 range, but at this point, I'm basically like riding tempo. And so that is actually, giving me hope. More than anything, it's giving me hope that I may be able to get up and over this climb with the field, because now instead of spiking, trying to get up and over this, I can ride something that is really within my wheelhouse, which is 400 watt efforts. Here it is, I'm over 700 watts. If 500 watts, but you can see my heart rate is in a place where I can actually respond. It's not that high, whereas before, when I came through here in lap 2, I was like in mid to upper 170 BPM. And right now I'm finally now in the mid 160s, but I'm also only having to do 400 to 500 watt efforts because I'm up in the front. Now, anyone that's behind, if they wanted to try and make their way up here, they would have had to have been putting in where I'm doing, 400 to 500 watts with the occasional 600 watt pop. They're going to have to be doing 600 to 800 watts just to close the gap, which is going to put them into the same position that I was in, which was, deep, irrevocable pain cave. So at this point, again, just fuel economy. I'm looking around. I'm seeing if anyone is, looking to try and be aggressive or get out of the saddle or anything along those lines. And to my everlasting thanks, no one was looking to do anything above and beyond what we were doing, which was just riding steady, getting up and over this climb, and at this point, I think everyone was basically in the same boat, which is like, let's just get over this climb, and then it'll come down to the sprint finish at the very end. So we're about roughly, let's say, about a little under halfway over the climb at this point, and you can see again, I'm having to do 400 watt effort. But this is one of those cases, my FTP is 380, so going up into the 400s, it's not that painful of an effort for me. And so I'm looking at this and I'm just like, okay, I can maintain this. And, even as I'm looking at people, putting in attacks and trying to, get away, I am refusing to put in any efforts whatsoever. I'm basically just, tucking myself in behind other riders, and I'm trying to ride as economically as I possibly can. So just stay attached, stay in the group, and then let those that are much more ambitious than I am at this particular moment in time, let them deal with closing things down so that I can basically keep my wits about me. And you can see throughout, that part of the climb, which, in lap 2 I was absolutely destroyed, I basically just wrote that as a high steady state, super threshold effort. So, 350 to 450 watts, and my heart rate is in the mid to upper 160s, which for me is that's in the pocket. So we're coming up through here. I'm, keeping my head up, just looking to see how many people are in front. Is the field together? And I do see that there's a little bit of separation. But again, at this point, I'm basically just looking at this and saying, I need to trust who's in front of me. It is a gamble. There is a possibility that, maybe someone has, Superman legs at this point and can put in a deep dig. But I'm just banking that there's enough remaining firepower and enough people that are in front of me that are willing and able to put in the work to keep us stitched up, whereby I can sit back here and, you can see I'm putting in 480 watts in that last dig, but by and large, otherwise I'm in the 100s and 200s. And it's risky. I repeat that again, it is a risky gambit, but my goal at this point is just stay attached. For no matter what it takes, stay attached. And only put in efforts when I need to. So now you see here, I'm 580 to over 600 watts, and it was because I had to at that particular point in time, but I only used it because that was a moment where the field was trying to get up and over. And so now for the first time on this climb, I'm up over 170. So this is a point where I'm also seeing that everyone is kind of, backing off. So I use that as an opportunity to move up the field. Everyone's tired at this point. You just saw I made up a massive amount of wheels by just holding, tempo, by doing like 310 watts, 315 watts. And yes, the energy expenditure was there, but better to do it there and be up near the front than have to do it like on this spot. And so this was another, poppy portion of the course. It was like 7 or 8%. And I'm seeing that group, starting to pull away, but I'm also thinking to myself, well, I'm already deep in the hole. I'll put in enough just to stay, somewhat in sight, but I need other people to close this down for me. And sweet mercy, my favorite saying on this particular day, there were just enough people because I had made up so many wheels with relatively low effort earlier. There was now, 5 or 6 people that were right behind me that they filled in the gap. So I was able to reattach, but I'm only doing, 200 watts, 150 watts. And so I'm able to conserve energy, and my heart rate is starting to come back down again. And you can see in the rear view, there's a separation there. So that was, again, just being as economical as possible and letting people, as much as possible, do the work for me. And this was, born out of desperation. Nothing else. So you just saw I actually almost overcooked that turn on the outside. But thankfully I was able to kind of just take enough off so that I could ride it smoothly. So at this point, we're coming around, and I'm actually starting to really sense the moment and really sense the opportunity to take all of the energy savings that I've been kind of holding up and hope that that'll be enough to get me to the finish line. So you just saw that the guy in the yellow socks, that's actually Paul. You just saw he moved up, and then 30, I think he was a Cat 2, he moved up as well, and I just followed those wheels. I've raced with Paul at the Trooper David Brinkeroff, so definitely aware of what he's capable of. And then we're coming through here, and again, staying attached, but because I'm near the front, in the front, I only have to do like 500, 600 watts. I did have to pop over 700 because it looked like there might have been an attempt to get up and over. But you just noticed that the guy that I had mentioned before, who was the star of the show in the intro, David, the Hot Tubs Jr. or Hot Tubes Jr. He put in a massive dig to get in front of me, whereas I was basically riding relatively steady, and now here I am, actually right back in front of him. And I'm still on the upper portion of my comfort zone as far as like pain caving it, but I'm in a better position, and I didn't have to like scar my legs in preparation. So getting up and over Oak Hill was all about just conserving energy and letting other people do as much work as possible. And here I am coming into the finish, or near the finish, and now I'm in the top 7. So at this point, I'm rested, and then somehow or other, I don't really know how, I uncorked a 970 watt sprint effort to get up and over that last little stinger before we were getting into this this final stretch. It's like maybe a mile to go or so before the finish line, but this is the point where I can really, I'm starting to taste the possibility that I might be able to get a good finish out of this. So I'm looking around, and I see that there's one person who went off, and then this other person who bridged up to join. And the biggest thing that I'm looking at this point is, I'm just like, okay, is that a 1-2 or is it a 3? You know, at this point, I can't really tell, quite frankly. But the thing that I am doing at this point is just basically looking and saying, okay, if the main group that I'm with that's in the front, if they start going, then, and there's Paul again, you know, I can't let that go. And so I put in just another bit of an effort. I'm still trying to recover at this point, but I also know that we're getting ready to go into a very fast downhill. And right here, David Hot Tubes, he came around and he had a Jesus take the wheel moment because I was coming over into the right. And if I had just moved like a couple of inches without seeing him, because when I looked over, there was no one there, then he's going right into a mailbox. So he had like 9 lives. So now we're back at the very beginning. We're over 50 miles an hour, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh boy, this could get hairy. And right there, I'm starting my sprint and I see that happen, and I was just like, oh my God, I hit the brakes hard. And then at this point, I'm just like, okay, I've just got to uncork. And I actually got up over 800 watts somehow multiple times in that sprint finish. And I was able to get 5th place in the Cat 3 field. It was a mix 1, 2, 3. I came in 5th in our Cat 3 field, and I was only like maybe a couple of bike lengths behind for first place. So, you know, all in all, on the day, I mean, it worked out well. I was able to get, you know, a really good placing. Super difficult day, but really fun. I made a lot of mistakes in terms of positioning, which cost me for the rest of the day in terms of you know, my level of comfort. But somehow or other, I was able to stick with it and get 5th place. So Ken Harrod is definitely a keeper of a race. I would strongly encourage anyone who's watching this, if you haven't done the Ken Harrod Memorial Race, definitely do it. And the other thing that I wanted to say is, you know, I've raced 24 times this year so far. I have another 20 or so on the schedule, including, you know, several gems like the Capital Region Road Race in Albany, the Giro del Cielo in New Jersey, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, the East Arcade Weekend in August, the Green Mountain Stage Race, and the myriad, you know, local races, including the Castelli Series, the CRCA Club races, and also, you know, the Lucarelli and Castaldi Cup Series as well. But yeah, I just really wanted to just give a shout out to the organizers and the other you know, competitors on the day. This was a brutally difficult race, and I'm just happy that I was able to secure 5th place. You know, represent Dave Jordan, and yeah, be doing this again. So with that, I just wanted to thank all of you for taking the time to watch and listen to my ramblings and musings. And if you like this, please like, comment, subscribe. Definitely looking for feedback. And like I said, I've still got like another 7 races in the docket. I will get those over the finish line and to you guys soon. So thank you very much for your time. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.